Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you the top 5 books that I read this summer. So the way this video is formatted is that I will go through all the books that I read over the months of June, July, and August, their ratings, and then at the end of the video I'll go more in depth in the ones that made my top 5. So this summer was very much focused on the Inspector Gamache series, so you're forewarned. But other than that, I feel like it was a good variety of books. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So starting out with June, I first read A Great Reckoning by Louise, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Glass Houses, a 5 out of 5 stars. Kingdom of the Blind, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. A Better Man, 4 out of 5 stars. And All the Devils Are Here, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. The Bench by Meghan Markle, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. Moving on into July, I first read Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe by Heather Weber, which I gave a 2 out of 5 stars. The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby DeRay, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. The Paris Library by Janet Skeslien Charles, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. The Scent Keeper by Erica Bauermeister, which I gave a 2 out of 5 stars. The Beekeeper's Promise and the Dressmaker's Secret by Fiona Valpy, which I gave a 3 and a 3.25 out of 5 stars. During the month of August, I first read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Dani Brown, and Actor Age Eve Brown, which I gave a 3.5 stars and 4 out of 5 stars. Deadweight by Erik Larson, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. So moving on to my top 5, I obviously had to include the Inspector Gamache series by Louise. As of throughout the summer, I got caught up with the series, which is really exciting, and currently I'm reading the newest book that just came out right now, which I'm super excited about. But I fell in love with the world and these characters, and this is more than just a crime series. It's very much kind of focused on the characters that and kind of the sense of found family and what it means to be human and having empathy and looking into the emotions of why people actually commit murders. And so this series is so much more than just a standard crime series. So yeah, I definitely love it. I have a video on why I love the series so much, so if you want to learn more about it, you can go and check that out. But each book has been honestly amazing, and it just gets better and better, and there's overarching narratives that kind of play out that you don't get to see until maybe book 7 or 8, and then there's other ones kind of going on as well. So you're very engaged with these characters, and I think what she has created with her world and these characters and just the murder mysteries is very unique. And this series has become my favorite crime series of all time, which is no small feat. So like I said, if you're interested in looking into a crime series, I have a whole video on why you need to read this series. But yeah, I could go on and on about this series, so I'm just gonna move along. Next up, I have The Paris Library, and this is a book that I was really excited. I had my eye on this book for a while, and so I was really excited to finally pick it up. But this is kind of a dual storyline. So we follow a girl who's growing up in France during World War II, and she works at the Paris Library of the American Library in Paris, and it kind of showcases her kind of resistance to the Nazi movement and her experience kind of living in Nazi-occupied France during this time. And then we also get the present day storyline takes place in the 80s, and it follows this young girl whose mother just passed away, and she ends up befriending her neighbor who is this French immigrant, and then their kind of two storylines kind of intermix. But yeah, I love this one. I think any book that takes place in the library is every book lover's dream basically, and I really love how she incorporated the history of this library into this novel in terms of the resistance that they provided with getting people who were banned from reading, Jewish people or people who did not fit the perfect image of pure Iranian race, who were banned from libraries, smuggling them books and giving people, making these stories live on even when the Nazis were trying to eradicate that. And I think that's really important, and I really loved it. I love the relationship. I think it's Oldie and Lily, which are the younger girl and then the main character in this, and I loved their friendship and just seeing that grow. But yeah, I really loved this. It was a lot of fun. I did have some complaints with some of the pacing stuff, but overall I really enjoyed this one, and if you are a fan of World War II historical fiction, I think this is a good one to pick up. Next up, I have The Girl with the Louding Voice, and this is a book that I read for a book club for, which is one that I'm doing with my lab mate and her friends, and this isn't one that I would necessarily have picked up by myself, just given by the title, and I'm kind of kicking myself for this because this book was honestly really amazing. We follow a young girl named Dani who is growing up in this very small village in Nigeria, and she ends up getting sold to this abusive man, as like her husband when she's 15 years old, and she kind of runs away from that, and her goal is to get an education, and because she believes that if a girl has access to education, she can find her louding voice and stand up for herself and stand up for those around her as well, which I really enjoyed. This book was truly heartbreaking, just seeing everything that Dani had to go through, just the horrible treatment she had to experience just to, live and make a living, and just kind of being thrown into somewhat of like a slave trade is heartbreaking. And I think this author does a really good job at showcasing that side of Nigeria, but also integrating a lot of history of like how it ended up becoming like that way. So as Dani learns to read, we do get kind of more little snippets in history about Nigeria and all that's kind of integrated in here throughout, which I thought was really interesting. And what it's unique as well is that it's written as if Dani is writing it, so it's not grammatically perfect English in here, which it did take a while to get used to, but I think it makes the narration so much stronger and more realistic. So if this one, like I said, was truly heartbreaking, but I fell in love with this character and just her determination. So if you are looking for, like I said, the book title sounds really really strange, but it is honestly amazing, and don't judge the book by its kind of title. Next up, I have actor Eve Brown, and this is my favorite of the Brown sisters trilogy. I'm not really one for reading contemporary romances or romances in general, so this one was reading this trilogy was very much stepping outside of my comfort zone, and yeah, this one is definitely my favorite of the series. And I think if you compare Eve to her other sisters, I feel like Chloe and Dani have kind of an elitism to them. Like I found them to be very kind of arrogant and not as likable, and like these characters don't need to be likable, but there is kind of like an arrogance to them that I felt kind of standoffish a little bit. And then I felt like Eve is very much more kind of in tune with herself. Like she doesn't, project this huge persona. And I felt like the concept of the lovers to haters kind of romance in here, I enjoyed a lot more. I think that's like my favorite romantic trope in here. And overall in this series in general, the author does a really good job at having different representations, but it doesn't feel like she is trying to do it for the diversity hire or do it for kind of those purposes. It felt very natural having very diverse characters of different backgrounds. In particular, the love interest in here is on the autism spectrum, and I felt like she did handle that in a very respectful way. But like I said, I felt Eve to be more likable. I felt like I laughed a lot more in this one, and I just was like really much invested in the romance in here. So if she writes like another book, I definitely will pick up another book by this author. It was just a lot of fun. It was just like a fun, light read. So moving in the opposite direction of something that is a lot darker is Deadweight by Erik Larson. I've been a huge fan of Erik Larson for a long time. I read Devil in the White City for when it was like our required summer reading going into grade 11, and that's when I really fell in love with his writing style. And so this is a non-fiction take on the last crossing of the Lusitania, which was the commercial civilian boat that was torpedoed by the Germans during World War I, and it eventually kind of led to the US entering World War I as well. This one kind of covers different stories. So we follow the captain of the Lusitania, we follow the German submarine captain who was the one that eventually fired the torpedo shots, and then we cover the experiences of some of the passengers aboard this ship. And I think what is really unique about Erik Larson is that although this is nonfiction and a good chunk of this book includes journal snippets of like the people, like this, literally all this is references, it doesn't feel like I'm reading a history book. It feels more of like a novelization of these events, which I think makes it very unique and a lot fun and makes it more accessible to a wider range of audiences, which I think is really unique from the non-fiction genre. Like, I think he makes it very accessible to a lot of different readers, and he keeps you engaged. And even it was kind of eerie because you know what is coming, but it's just interesting how he talked about like if things were different, or if like the fog lasted half an hour, or if they left, you know, at this time, like they would have not have crossed paths with that U-boat that sunk him. And I think it's really interesting, and just learning about the lives of the people that were involved in it and what eventually was the build up to this actual event, I think is very heartbreaking to see, and especially because you know how it's going to end. But I learned so much about this. I learned a lot about U-boats and what these kind of huge like passenger boats were like, what it was like to be on there. And yeah, I really like this. I was happy I would finish this too, because this is the book that's been on my TBR the longest, so I was happy to finally kind of check this off in my bullet journal that I read it. So it was definitely worth the wait. I really enjoyed this, and if you're looking to get into nonfiction, I would check out this author. He covers a wide variety of topics, and I think there's definitely one in there for you that you guys would like. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what are your favorite books that you read over this summer and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.